What is up, everybody, and welcome into another installment of the RPG Fantasy Football Podcast. Today, we're going to be looking at Jonathan Taylor and his fantasy value for the 2025 season and what his fantasy outlook could be for 2025. Obviously, this is a Dynasty podcast, so we'll be talking about some of the future value as well and where we think that's going. So, let's get it kicked off with how we typically get things kicked off around here, going over to Dynasty Data Lab and taking a peek at some of the data over there. That is going to be sleeper data that is pulled directly from actual drafts, not mock drafts, not something that somebody could be screwing around with. These are real money leagues. So we can see pretty quickly, looking at the running backs, we can move down. Jonathan Taylor, running back 9, going pick 43 off the board. These are PPR leagues. I do have it filtered for that. So fourth round pick, middle of the fourth round is what you would have to spend on Jonathan Taylor, most likely. One of the really nice facets that you can try and look at here is what his ADP history has looked like this offseason. And then they also have a pick availability. So you can go 101 and then you can just go down. All right, so he's going middle of the fourth round, give or take. This is saying that most of the time he is actually available 50% of the time at the 409, and then maybe you can scoop him up a little bit later. About a third of the data points said that he was going in this 412 range. So back part of the fourth round, just something to think about when you're looking at potentially drafting Jonathan Taylor. So, why are people drafting Jonathan Taylor? What are they looking for? Who's going around him? We got Travion Henderson as RB10 going a couple picks behind him. We got Kyron Williams going even a couple further picks behind that. In front of him, we have Breece Hall going. These guys all have different things. Breece Hall has the receiving profile that Jonathan Taylor doesn't. Travion Henderson has the youth profile that Jonathan Taylor doesn't. And Kyron Williams, well, Kyron Williams has been relatively similar, but people seem to like the Rams offense a little bit better than the Colts offense. So he has that going for him in that circumstance. All right, we're going to go over now and see what has Jonathan Taylor done this past season in 2024. All right, so we're going to say over at Fantasy Pros, we're going to go over to the RB statistics over there. We're going to have it sorted by PPR, and we're going to look at overall fantasy points, okay? Overall fantasy points in the 2024 season, he put up 244.7 points, and he was averaging 17.5 points per game. So missed a couple games, a little dinged up, which has been unfortunate that has been pretty consistent over his career, missing a handful of games here and there. Once again, the receiving profile was basically non-existent, 31 targets for 18 receptions. And if only he could double that. If only he could double that, because if that was doubled and we're talking even 36 receptions, we're talking about somebody that could be in that top 6 back range. When you look and sort by points per game, because obviously we want the best lineup whenever our players are playing, you can see that he was RB7 according to Fantasy Pros here. Double-digit touchdowns once again. We've seen some injuries that he's gone through. The offensive line is also changing, and to be able to show you that and what that looks like, we'll go over to PFF for their grades, looking at the Colts this past season. All right, we got some guard play. Obviously, Nelson is one of the best guards in the game. You have Raymond as well out there at tackle, one of the better tackles in the league, pretty stalwart. You have Pittman blocking on the outside when his back isn't acting up. Alec Pierce is an absolute liability in the run game, so hopefully they're not asking him to block too much. Smith, very solid run blocker as well. Now, they lost two offensive linemen. Will Fries, who was hurt most of the season, didn't play a ton of snaps, but was very good when he was playing. And then Ryan Kelly, who had been their center for a while now. So you got two positions that they didn't really address too much in the offseason. So that'll be something that'll be interesting to figure out what they're going to do, see how those pieces gel together, and see if maybe this coming season Jonathan Taylor gets a little bit more pressure up the gut, and he has to maybe try and bounce some runs to the outside with his speed that he very clearly still has. That'll be a whole question to be figured out. And this passing game is well documented with Anthony Richardson at the helm. Look, he's a running quarterback. He's a runner that happens to be able to throw the ball. Does that mean that there's going to be a lot of dump offs? Probably not. Probably if he's getting in that situation, you are probably talking about somebody that is just going to be taking off with his legs instead of checking it down to his running back, which doesn't really leave much hope for the passing role severely extending. Now, the hope would be is if Daniel Jones ends up taking over, because Daniel Jones does enjoy and does like and does often check down to his running backs, is able to utilize that part of the game and try and open up different parts of the offense. So if you combine the volume for Jonathan Taylor, which I think everybody's fully clocking him in for 300 attempts once again this coming season, and an increased workload in the receiving game, then you can justify his RB9 prices. Me personally, given the age, the injury history, the degrading offensive line, the question marks around quarterbacks, I would be bumping him down my personal ranks. I would not be spending the RB9 prices when I have other running backs that I can pay up a little bit more for Breece, assuming that he stays healthy and gets a little bit more in the run game, because he has a very, very good receiving profile. If I want to take a very young swing at running back, being able to take a Henderson over him could provide very good fruits. And then if you want volume, you still have Josh Jacobs a little bit later. Maybe you can address a different position in your fourth round, or you have Kyron Williams if you want to drop back a couple slots, maybe move up a couple slots in that like 9th, 10th round of your startup, going in that range. But what do I realistically think 2025 is going to produce for him? I very much think that it is going to drop a little bit in fantasy points per game. So we're talking probably, in my opinion here, somewhere around that 16.5 to 17 instead of the 17.5 that he had last season. Now, that 16.5 to 17 would put him somewhere in the RB12 to RB10 range from last season. So you're talking somebody that is a back end RB1, could have some spike weeks in there, could have some dud weeks in there. You may get a little bit of volatility, but his carries should keep him relevant, should keep him in the double-digit fantasy points per game workload and production. So hopefully the dud weeks are few and far between. Do you agree with these takes? Do you disagree? Please let us know in the comments. As always, we appreciate y'all stopping by, and hopefully you like the show. If you did, consider giving us a subscribe. We're trying to bring actionable fantasy advice to these Dynasty streets to help y'all be able to be better Dynasty players and maybe critically think about some of these players rather than just looking at the name value and going, man, Jonathan Taylor, that's a name that's always talked about. So have a good night, everybody, and keep watching more videos. We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the Goblins get you.